see. Oh, hold on. I didn't want that. Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome to my channel. I am Coach Sherri, and so this is my morning live. I know I'm, later than usual. A lot of you, I'm sure, watch me on your way in, commuting maybe to work or getting your day started. And I know this is a little late. I got a late start. I had a late night, and I was like, you know what? Let me just chill for a minute before I get my day started. I see Loving Myself is in the building. I am doing well. How are you? Good morning to you. Great to see you. How are things going with your footage and your videos and such? Oh my goodness. So as you can see from this title, and first thing in the morning, I'm like a mess. I can't. My eyes, they water until I get adjusted. And I think this light is so bright. Let me see if I could turn it down a little bit. All right, that's better. So, as you can see from the title, I know you have to at least maybe try to post 3 days a week, give yourself some grace. Going, posting up a video every day can be very challenging. However, I recommend having some activity if you can on your channel. I'm not sure if you're able to post like pictures or images on your community wall, but if you can, that's another form. I know you do great with your shorts, and, just try to have some type of activity. But you showing up and, supporting others is a huge help for your channel too. That's networking. So it's always great to see you. And I saw you the other day in Carter's Eats Live, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad they are connected for sure. And you're waiting for your ride to go to your therapy. Okay, well, I'll be here waiting with you. So as you can see from the title of this live, it's National Brain Trauma Awareness Month. And I didn't realize that that was this month, for the month of March. Every month there's multiple national days, national months, national weeks, national day, of something or another, some cause, some event. And I was at a meeting last night, and they people that support or that are advocates for National Brain Trauma Awareness Association, they received a proclamation, stating that this month was as such, and they were recognized for it. And some of them were speaking about their experience with brain trauma, personal experience. And, it's so interesting how your mind allows you to handle things because of maybe you don't view it as this huge thing, it's big, but you don't look at it to that extent. For instance, when my mother passed away and they mentioned that she was handicapped, and I never viewed her as being handicapped, even though she had no use of her limbs. She couldn't walk, she couldn't feed herself, she couldn't use her arms, her legs, her feet, her hands. She could use her hands a little bit. Um, but I never looked at her, I never viewed her as being handicapped. We did have a handicap accessible vehicle because, again, she was in a wheelchair, but I never viewed her as being handicapped. And, when they were talking about the brain trauma, and some of you may or may not know, but my husband suffers from suspect CTE due to concussions and such, while he was playing football. And I never really looked at it as brain trauma, even though it is the brain. And when they were telling their stories, it just really kind of choked me up. Not kind of, but it really did. It choked me up, just knowing, how delicate the brain is and how much of a sport, a gladiator sport, football is, and how so many men have been impacted by it. I mean, there's so many ways that, you can get a concussion or trauma to the brain. It could be by accident, it could be by birth. It doesn't always have to be a sport. And if it's a sport, it doesn't always have to be football. It can be basketball, baseball, soccer, tennis. It could be anything. It could be a physical altercation that you have, a one and done. It could be a variety of things. It could be a fall, a trip that you did while walking, and you may have just, hit your head. It could be a car accident. It could be a jarring. It could be, a sudden jar like that. It's many ways that your brain can be traumatized, and you know I want to say the sooner you can recognize that there has been something that happened, you really need to to handle it and take care of it. And in particular for football, unfortunately, back in the day, they would get their bells rang and they would just continue to play. That was kind of like part of it. You almost wanted to get your bell rang because that means you was getting that hit in, but not realizing the future challenges that it would bring. And I know that the sport, the game has definitely become more aware of it, and they've done things to hopefully protect the future or minimize their challenges, but it's still a challenge nevertheless. And I see um, Masa Chilka Kuzkun is in the building. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but hello to you. Welcome in. And so, you know, suspect CTE, and they call it that because it can't really be fully diagnosed until they pass away. But, I want to say 99% of professional football players in particular, and I'm only speaking on that sport because that was my husband's profession for 10 years. About 99% of players, especially the old school players, have it. And it's amazing how, in some instances they can seem regular, and then in other instances not. And I remember speaking to some of the wives. We have a really strong group, very supportive group. Those are my sisters for sure. Speaking with them, and they were saying how, football, the NFL took our husbands, because they just aren't the same. Everyone looks forward to retirement and being able to spend that quality time. And I'm so fortunate and blessed that, after 10 years, my husband was able to walk away on his own accord from the sport. But and we've had many, many years after he retired of him being good. It's just that, a good portion of it too was us caring for our parents, his father and my mother. But he was absolutely and still is an amazing partner when it comes down to the support for our children, whether they're, when they were young and even as young adults, always having their best interest at heart. And as a husband, just being a phenomenal partner. It was interesting when he played. I remember going out to lunch one time with a group of wives, and they were all talking about their husbands and other women, and how disrespectful other women are even when they were in the presence with their husbands. Like they could be holding their husbands hands walking, and women would come up to their husbands and just give them a number, and the husband would take it like, what? And they would just talk about that. And I would say I never had that experience. I never had to worry about my husband. And I know some people think, oh, that's a fairy tale. Oh, your head's in the sand or whatever. But no, I never had to worry about him. He's always respected me as his wife, as the mother of his children. And I'm so grateful for that. And I know that's not everyone's story, whether they had a spouse that played sports or not. But, thankfully, gratefully, that's my story. And, that's how it is and has always been. And I just really appreciate that I never had to deal with that disrespect. So when the women would talk about it and I would share my experience, like, no, that's not my experience. They almost like, I want to say they kind of ostracized me. It was almost like, I don't know, it was just weird how, they handled that. They didn't prefer it. They almost looked at it like it was make believe. And almost like I didn't have anything in common with them because my husband wasn't out there like that. I don't know, but that's fine because, it really taught me, and it has taught me to teach my children, especially my daughters, to have respect for yourself and don't accept a man if he's going to do that. Because to me, if you are, especially if we're married, what if you're cheating on me, then that means that I'm not all that I need to be for you, and we probably need to part ways at that point, especially if I'm doing all I can as a wife. Now, my husband got into our marriage knowing I don't cook. I don't know how to cook. I don't prefer to cook. There's a couple of things that I could shake it out in the kitchen. My macaroni and cheese, I'll put it in a contest for sure. But, in terms of that being an expectation of me as a wife, that has never been. But I know how to be a great wife, and I am. And, if you're doing all that you can and if you're not being respected, then, you need to have that conversation and figure out what's the next move going to be. But, fast forwarding, and maybe that's why, in the NFL, 85% of marriages end up in divorce. But we're talking about the brain trauma and the things that, the changes that occur. And, a lot of people don't understand the changes and, how you handle those changes. And it's not for everyone to understand. It's not. And before I continue on, I see official 1SP is in the building. Good morning to you. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Let me see. I want to add you. I hope you're doing well today and everyone is speaking. Thank you for that. Thank you for tuning in. You have those lives, doing your thing. And just so happy to see everyone continue to grow in their YouTube journey. Um, so, a lot of people, they don't know what to say sometimes. And, I really appreciate Carter's Eat because periodically her and I will go out to eat in real life, and we don't live too far from one another. And even though she hasn't met my husband in person, um, she'll ask about him. She'll be like, "Sis, how's your husband? So, Aurora, how's hubby doing?" And I really appreciate that. A lot of people don't ask me. I have a few other friends that do as well. Deborah, if you're watching, you're one of them. Vashti, Queen Vashti, you're one. Um, and I really appreciate that because, his issue with the brain trauma is not going to get better. It's not. It's progressive, and I understand that. Thankfully, gratefully, you know, I'm just really grateful that I know I'm not the only one. I have a support group with the other wives that are going through it, that have stuck through it with their husbands, that didn't just say, you know what, these changes are too much and this is not what I signed up for, so I'm out of here. That's not what marriage is about. It's about the good times, the bad times, the through what health and sickness and in health, And so I really honor my vows, and my husband has been and still is too good to me and to my family for me to say, deuces, because you're not how you were 30 years ago, because you're not how you were 25 years ago or whatever. That's just not how I roll at all. That's just not what I'm made of. I know that he stuck with me through some thick and thin moments, and always honored me, never disrespected me. And how you gonna what you gonna do with that? Are you gonna just throw that away? No. But I appreciate when people do ask me how he's doing because that lets me know that they consider him. They consider me and him. They understand that I'm going through a journey and they care about it. I don't know, maybe some people are scared to ask, how is he doing or how am I doing with it? Um but if you know me, then you know me, and you shouldn't be scared. So if you haven't been asking me, like, how's he doing, especially if you're in my tight circle, don't worry about it. Don't, after this and you see this, don't ask me because then I know that, that's not really authentic necessarily. It's okay. It really is. Because I do have some really good people in my circle that understands and are there. So I'm good in that way. My children are warriors. They are the most resilient, compassionate young people that I've ever encountered, ever. And I knew they would be, especially when they were going through the process with my mother when she was sick and my father-in-law when he was sick. And, how as young people, as, elementary, middle school age young people, how strong they were. They were like me, and they treated my mother and my father-in-law as if they were just the way they've always been. They never looked at them differently, treated them differently because of their health conditions. And I knew, as young people, that they were going to grow up to be something very special. And how they are with their dad, just being regular. It's like, when my mother had ALS, and ALS kills your body, but your mind will be the same. And so you change outwardly, the way you look, the way that you can move and things. And people typically respond to how you look, which is so ridiculous to me. So they treat you different when you don't look the same, when you don't move the same, but your mind is still intact. So I would just ask people when they would come over, just talk to her. Just tell her about what's going on in the world that you both lived in together, the events that you're going to, the people that you both know. Tell her what's happening, just talk. And that's what I loved about my kids. They would just talk, They didn't look at Nana like, oh, Nana can't really communicate back. They would continue to have those conversations just as joyful and innocent as children should be. And I love that. And that's how they are, with my husband. They just talk. They have conversations. And I'm sorry, I just got a call. I hope that you all can hear me. Put a number one in the chat if you can still hear me. I just had a call. And you know how you get a call and you might say it could be like a custom message or sorry, I can't talk. I just clicked, I'll be right there. I'm on my way. And I am not on my way. I'm not even going there wherever they are. Like, what? They're probably going to be looking for me. Oh my goodness, that's so wild. Uh, um, so put a one in the chat if you can hear me. Just a one in the chat. So I'll know that you all can hear me. I hope that you can. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for the thumbs up. I see 6 thumbs up. I appreciate that. I do. I do. Let me see. I hope that you can still hear me. I'm just going to continue on. So, my children, they respond well to him as well as I. It's brain trauma is not the fault of anyone. Whoever has brain trauma, they didn't wake up and say, I want this. They didn't say that. I think about my oldest brother too. I don't think I've ever shared this, but I have 2 older brothers, 8 and 9 years older than me. And my oldest brother is a survivor. He's had 2 strokes. He suffered 2 strokes at a relatively early age, in his 50s. And you know our conversations are a little different, the way that he's able to communicate, but I know that he understands everything. And I still love him so dearly, and I talk to him just like regular because I know what that's like, having dealt with my mother, having supported and cared for her with ALS, and understanding that you might not be able to verbally communicate the way you used to. You may not look the way that you used to, but if your mind is straight, even if your mind isn't 100%, it's still there. You're still capable. Your eyes are able to open, so your brain does have function. Just communicate with the people that you love, that you encounter. Talk to them regular. That's the best advice I can give. For people who are suffering from brain trauma. They don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to be pushed just to the side. They don't want to be forgotten. When people act like, oh, I don't have time for that. What don't you have time for? Because any given Sunday, it could be any of us. And how would you want to be treated? How would you feel if, people forgot about you, pushed you to the side and just said, oh, you don't understand, this person doesn't understand, they're different. And that's with a lot of things in life. There's this kind of I want to call it a mold that not a mold, but a mold that some people kind of that's how they move in life. The mold of how everyone's supposed to look in their circle, how everyone is supposed to look on their team, how everyone is supposed to look in their environment, in their business or whatever, What? Who wants to fit into a mold? Not me. Not me at all. And if you can't accept how I look and, what I can contribute, then I don't need to be part of that. And it's interesting because, they talk about DE&I, and that's a lot of it, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know that's off the table now. I probably shouldn't even be saying it, but I am. It's a word, it's words, right? And, they always say, oh, we don't, we want to all be included. And I get that. But that deals with emotional intelligence. What are your biases? How are you showing up? How are you treating others? So when we think about things like brain trauma with people that have had illnesses, people that have had severe injuries, burns, they change the aesthetic of how they look, just whatever the case may be. How are you really treating them? You have to ask yourself. That's emotional intelligence. Are you being equitable? Are you being inclusive? Because they don't fit your mold now? Are you throwing them away because they don't fit your mold now? Are you throwing them away because they can't communicate back to you the way you're used to them talking back with you and having those conversations? You're throwing them away? What? That is ridiculous. So at the end of the day, we have to point the finger back to us. Who are we to judge? Who are we to put that stigma on other people and, just push them over there? Now, people put themselves over there. There's plenty of people that put themselves over there. And I'll say that there's places over there, people that don't want to play nice in the sandbox or whatever. But at the same time, because there's some people that just don't have a good in them. I mean, it is what it is. But, we have to know how we're showing up and how we're dealing and treating other people, because people will flourish if you really respect them. People will flourish if you really honor and see the value in them, no matter what stage in life they are in. They will always appreciate that. They may not be able to verbalize it all the time. I'm thinking about the last time Carter's Eat and I went to lunch, and she asked me about my husband. I always pause, when people ask me, because I'm surprised, because no one seems to care. But I pause because I'm really thinking, like, and all I can say is he's doing okay. You know, every change you make in your life, you just have to do okay with it. Every difference that occurred in my mother's life as she lived with ALS, every maybe new challenge that we encountered, every skill that she was no longer able to do, we had to accept it and be okay. We had to, that's our new normal. Sometimes you have your normal and then you have your new normal, and your new normal sometimes is not what you always expected it to be. I didn't expect 30 years ago when I got married that, my husband would have what we now know as suspected CTE, and that it would have changed his interpersonal skills so much. My husband, we used to call him Mr. Mayor. Everyone loved him. Like, he knew everyone. He was one of the most considerate people to everyone. Now he just considers us his immediate family, but he used to be, that one. I remember when my children were in elementary school, and it was really just my son at first. So he was in elementary school. He's the oldest. And when he got to first grade, and the elementary school may have been 4 years old. It was relatively new. And I don't know if you've seen this. I've only seen it in the South, really, where schools get so big they have to put the trailers out, where they would have the classrooms and such. And so they put trailers out, and it was an elementary school, so it went from kindergarten to fifth grade. But they put the first graders out in the trailer. The first graders, they're like babies. And the trailers did not have bathrooms. So when they had to go to the bathroom, they had to leave out the trailer, go out and around and into the school. And they didn't have cameras out there. So you know what my husband did every day? He sat out in that parking lot. He wished somebody would. He sat in that parking lot every day. Every day. He didn't care. He get his coffee, boom, boom. I mean, the principal, we were real cool with the principal and everything. So, but oh, y'all don't have security? I got you. He always he always had, the best interest of everyone in mind. He always, wants everyone to be safe. And just little things like that he would do. I remember we had friends, and one of the fathers was a coach for college basketball, and the wife was a teacher, and they had three young ones too. Their son and my son were best friends. They were like a year apart, and they had twins that were in between. It was interesting because, I have three that are 20 months apart. So, like, I had a kindergartner, second grade, and fourth grader. They had a first grader and a third grader. So in our house at many given times, it would be a kindergartner, first, second, third, and fourth grader, just all up in the house, right? Six kids. And so, I would wake up in the morning and the kids would be there. My husband would be like, "Yeah, I told him to bring the kids through. We'll take them to school." Like, that's who he is. And that's so dope because what other man do you know would say that? Like, "Yeah, I got the kids. Come on." I mean, every time when our kids were young, we had a big Yukon XL or whatever, and it would be filled with kids all the time. Um, that's just who he is. And I really love him for that. Because I know not many men are like that, don't have patience like that. If we eating, everybody eating, you know? That's who he is. And yeah. So today, well, this month, March, is National Brain Trauma Awareness Month. And if you have someone in your circle that's experienced brain trauma for whatever reason, through accident, birth, situation, whatever the case may be, they may have developed it. With my brother having two strokes, that's brain trauma. Um, love them, love them anyway, love them still. Talk to them, have conversations, care about them, ask them how they're doing. Be patient when they're talking to you. It may take them a minute to think about what they have to say. It may be challenging for them to get out what they have to say, but be patient. It definitely takes patience, and patience is a virtue for sure. So, yeah, yesterday, I was surprised. I was at that meeting. I wasn't expecting that proclamation. I wasn't expecting to hear the stories of those who do have brain trauma, but it really touched my heart, and it really kind of grounded me and made me remember, like, wow, yeah, what my mother went through was brain trauma. What my husband is going through is brain trauma. In some form or fashion, hell, we all have brain trauma. When you think about it, what? It's always something, brain fog, whatever. But just take care of yourself. Try to make sure you are in tune to your body and what's going on. If you feel that, wait, you know what, Coach Sherri, I remember I had that real bad hit in the head that time. Maybe, go, it's never too late. I mean, you want to get it as soon as you can, but get it checked out. Make sure that you are proactive with your health and not reactive, not realizing down the road that, man, if I would have just went a little earlier, things may have been different. And like I was starting to say, I just never thought, when you're young, that's why talking to young wives is real hard. Young NFL wives is hard because they all don't think it's going to happen to them. No older wife ever told any of us about the now, the now. Um, they never did. They never did. And now that they all are like, "No, it's not gonna happen. Oh, things have gotten better with the sport, this, that, and the other." And I know things have changed with the sport. It's different, but it's not that different. It's really not that different. And it's such a competitive sport. Football is. until a lot of times, you get hurt. You don't want to step off that field because the person behind you breathing down your neck, trying to get your spot is waiting, is waiting. And everybody wants their shot. And they're not going to just step aside easily when you're ready to come back because they ain't ready to give it up. You know, they want to get their film out there. They want to be that starter. So, I mentioned this before, when I was pregnant with our center child. mm, I was talking to someone because he was saying how his baby's a crybaby. He called his baby a crybaby. And my center child was kind of low key a crybaby. And I know she was a crybaby because when I was pregnant with her, I cried. I cried so much because that season, it was one of the best seasons, though. It was. I'm telling you, gladiator sports are football is a gladiator sport. You want to win at all costs. At all costs, you want to win. You just out there, boom, boom. But I remember my husband would come home and he would damn near be crawling into the house because he couldn't walk. He really couldn't walk. And I was pregnant and my son, our baby was like a little over 1 years old. He was 20 months old when my daughter was born. So he was like 1.5 or so. And I used to be like, how are you out there playing and you could barely walk? How? But he knew the person behind him was breathing down his neck. So I would cry, y'all. I would cry so hard. And I remember, so I don't know if they still do this, but every team is different anyway. But on Wednesdays, we used to have Bible study, wives Bible study. And we would pray and talk and do scripture because every team has a chaplain. And so a lot of times if the chaplain was married, the wife would be the lead of our Bible study. Or if they didn't have a wife, then it would be just a lot of times it would be the quarterback's wife. The quarterback is like the lead of the team. I know if there's other people in here, they probably like, what the? But a lot of times, the quarterback is the lead. And I mean, every position has a lead. It is usually the one that's the elder or the franchise player or whatever. But I know the last few years when we were with the Panthers, it was I want to say it was a combination of the chaplain's wife and the quarterback's wife. And either way, I was cool with them because my husband protected the quarterback. So, we was always cool with them. But um, I would cry in those Bible studies, asking the wives to pray for my husband, just trying to, understand. Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it because he could barely walk. But then I see him on the field, running on the field during the games and stuff. And I just look like, I don't understand how he's doing this. And so he would always have to get treatment, before the game, after the game, whatever. Or, on Tuesdays when they had off, he would have to go in to get treatment and everything. And I remember, and I've said this story, and I apologize if y'all are hearing it again, but it is my story. What? Sometimes you repeat yourself. I don't know. Sometimes it's relevant in the moment. But I remember going to this big sporting store in Charlotte, and it was off of Independence Boulevard, if y'all are familiar with that street. And it's not there anymore, this sporting store. I can't remember what it was called. Maybe Sports Academy, maybe. And I went in and I remember walking into the store and I stopped, like, and I looked around like, why am I here? Like, why did I come in here? This is so weird. I didn't anticipate going into the sporting goods store. There was nothing I needed. It wasn't part of a mall, so I obviously drove there, got out of my car, walked in, and I was like, well, let me just walk around and it'll come to me. You know how sometimes if you go into a store, but you forget what you need, but you walk around and eventually you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I needed this. Boom, boom. So I'm walking up and down the aisles, and at the end of the aisles, what's the end cap or whatever it's called, they'll have certain things, that's not on the whole aisle. It'll be maybe a special or something that they're trying to introduce or whatever. So I see this patella band, and I never heard of it before, and it was saying how it eliminates knee pain. And I was like, huh. And it's just this really thin kind of band with a Velcro around it. It was tan, and you put it under your kneecap and it kind of holds it in place or whatever. So I said, well, I'm gonna get this. Maybe this will help my husband. So I remember, I mean, it's almost like it was yesterday. This was in 1999. I remember I was pregnant with my center child. She was born in 2000. And my husband came home, and we were up in our bonus room, just chilling, looking at TV, and he was telling me about his day and everything. And I said, "Oh wait, I got you this thing. I don't know what it is really, but um maybe it'll help your knee." I was just walking, I don't even know why I was in the store, but I picked it up, and maybe hopefully it'll help your knee. And he looked at it, he was like, I mean, it won't hurt, it won't help. I mean, no, he said it won't hurt. It won't help. He said it won't hurt, so I'll try it, yeah. And so this was like Wednesday. This is a Wednesday, I want to say, because Tuesdays are were their day off, and that's the day. Again, he will go in for treatment, but we will be together all day on Tuesdays. But Wednesday is when I would go to the Bible study, do some things, whatever. And so I think I was on my way home from the Bible study when I got this. So he said, I'll try it out. Why not? Almost like I tried everything else. Let me just try this. And y'all, he did. He tried it, and he did. I mean, he was shocked at how much better his knee felt. And he got the game ball that Sunday. Because see, that's another thing, whoever plays well on Sundays, they get a game ball. It'll have the date, the name of the team that they play. They have like, I guess, like an artist on staff that paints the balls, and all that. And so he told the artist, put my wife's name on it, because she helped me with my knee this week, you know? And he was shocked, like, all these doctors, these physical therapists, boom, boom, and my wife gives me this and it helps. What? And at the end of that season, I remember the wives at the Bible study, we were giving out like awards, and they gave me a certificate and it said, I helped my husband's knee award. That was funny. That was some good times. So, yeah, that is just much respect. And what you gonna do with that? You can't deny that. You can't leave that. You just love that, and that's what I do. And memories last a lifetime, and I'm so blessed to have amazing memories, y'all. I lived my life out loud. you know my husband doesn't do much anymore, but he has done almost everything at least once. That's how he rolled. He wasn't a fan of, daredevil type things like I am, but he would do it at least once. And then after that, he's like, I'll hold your bag. Like, I'm good. I don't need to do that again. But he definitely has lived his life and is continuously living his life. And, may the life you live speak for you. And every day, with the next new challenge, it's still life. You just might have to do it a little different, right? And that's how it is. And that's how you understand that life goes on. It just may not always look the same for everyone. Everyone may not understand it. Everyone may not be able to handle it, but that's your assignment. That's your life. It's not for them to understand. It's not for them to handle. It's not for them to say, if I was that person, this is what I would do. It's not their business, because if they were that person, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't. They wouldn't even be able to handle it. So, um, yeah, again, if you know someone who has had brain trauma, if you know someone that's living with someone who has brain trauma, ask them how they doing. What's going on? You need anything, girl? You need to talk. What's happening? Everything cool? It's a easy question. It really is. It's not. It don't take much. I'm so sorry. I'm here talking. I didn't even check the chat. I see the Stock Explorer is in the building. Hello to you. How are things? How are things? It's great to see you. Thank you for being here. And Rooted in Essential Oils, y'all. All of y'all are such great content. Tuber Chat, Connect and Grow. All of you you're all such great content creators. I hope you all are connected. Check each other out. Y'all have been rocking with me. I've been rocking with you, and I appreciate the support. I truly do. And again, this is a little late for me this morning. I usually come on about 7:30ish, 8ish, probably more like 8. But I had a very long night last night, and I just wanted to give myself grace today. That just kind of threw me for a loop, that proclamation to the Brain Trauma Awareness Month. And it's all good. If God brings you to it, he'll get you through it. And he gives his best assignments to his strongest soldiers. So I feel honored to have all these experiences. And I feel honored that you all were here to listen and to chat it up in the chat. And for those of you listening in on the replay, thank you so much for your support. Be sure to like, subscribe, share out, leave a comment so we can continue this conversation down in the comment section, and stay tuned and come back again. I appreciate you all for stopping by. It's been my pleasure. Remember, practice every day. Practice so hard that when you get in, you will always play to win. I am Coach Sherri.